2, 1.
Boom.
Boom. What's up, Judah?
Oh, dude, I forgot my shades. I didn't know you were doing shades.
Listen,
I
it's
could have done
Friday.
shades if I would have got that memo.
I'm feeling super cool. Oh,
Do you know
did
why we're doing
bring your
shades?
Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
I have shades, but I
Awesome.
can't see you when I have them on. When I reached and grabbed them. So do you know why we're wearing shades today, Josh? Because our future's so bright. We gotta wear shades. That's why.
Love it.
Yeah,
Love
there's all kinds of good stuff going on today in the news. This is my name is Judah. This guy right over here, to the right or left of me, depending on your
it, guys.
persuasion, is Josh Weidman. And this is the Build and Grow with Real Estate show. It's a show designed for people who either make a living as real estate investors or people who make a living from the real estate space, be they lenders or realtors or appraisers or home inspectors, all those kinds of things. So we talk about all things real estate and real estate related here on the show. I am a realtor and Josh is a hard money lender. We are both long-time real estate investors. And what we do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is we do a topic or several topics. We do informational information there. How's that for you? And then on Thursday, we have a guest.
Wait a minute. Did you start drinking early?
No, I didn't. I shouldn't tell you this. I shouldn't say this on the air on the day of COVID, but I did take a cough medicine pill.
Oh my goodness. All right. We have an inebriated speaker here today.
And then on, what do we do on Friday, Josh?
Every Friday we cover the news, all the news that's relevant and that you need to know about real estate investing. And without further ado, let's jump into the news because, over the last couple of weeks, we've kind of transitioned from our weekly end of the world, news update to now this is our fabulous weekly news and commentary for the week ending October 9th.
Right.
All right, so we're gonna start with the boring, dry stuff. So Steve, I'm sorry, you're gonna be bored, but all right. So unemployment news. I'll give you the good and the bad, Judah, and you tell me what you think here. The bad is we had another 840,000 new filings this week. That's a lot of claims.
Right.
The good news is continuing claims went down by 800,000 in the last week.
Right.
The unemployment rate dropped from 7.9% to 7.6%, which doesn't seem like a huge shift, but it is. 800,000 jobs, that's a lot of people.
Yep. And it's moving in the right direction, and it's getting zero play in the media right now. I think what's happening here is so there's also some bad news here because the stimulus package is unlikely now to get passed before the election, which is, I don't know, good, bad, indifferent, whatever. And I think that it's just really too bad because number one, I don't think we need the package, but I also think that the package, should it go through, it would have propped up a whole lot of stuff that I don't think should have been propped up and should just kind of naturally die on its own. But that's stepping a little bit too much into politics. I think that even though I like it when Congress decides to get along and meet in the middle, what the liberal side of things was asking for, I think, was pretty big and pretty egregious. But here's why you and I have been disagreeing on the news, because I've been generally taking a positive view. You have generally been taking a negative view on unemployment. Obviously, that's not 100% to say that you've been a Grinch or anything like that, but that's just kind of how we've been shaking out. Here's what's been going on. I saw in some news commentary the word churn. And I was mad that I didn't come up with this or realize this myself. The reason there's a whole bunch of companies that are hiring and growing and expanding. We're one of them. We're really growing like gangbusters over here at Slate House Group. I know a lot of other industries that are growing, a lot of other companies that are growing, but there's also companies that have been weathering the storm and have decided they can't hold on anymore, and so they're falling out. So there's a lot of churn that's happening. A lot of people are getting fired and laid off, but a lot of people are also getting hired. So it's like, geez, there's all this great economic news. why aren't the numbers better than this? And then also at the same time, geez, there's all this awful stuff happening, all these, companies laying off and all this bad stuff happening. I can't believe the numbers are as good as they are. And really what's happening is, we've seen, it's kind of funny, we've seen this kind of, come down a cliff and then be leveled off starting in about beginning after the first week of August. And we've just been kind of chugging along right there. And it is because of the churn. I think that things will, whenever this happens in stocks, I follow Japanese candlesticks charting for stocks and things like that. Whenever something happens where you're at a high resistance up and a resistance low and you just kind of get in this trough, usually when there's breakout, it happens pretty aggressively in one direction or the other. So we'll see what will happen after the election. I think that there is going to be significant breakout in the economy.
Okay, so I'm going to toss out some breadcrumbs and veer very far away from what we're talking about right now, because it's something that you brought up about the
rabbit trails and breadcrumbs. That's what what this show is known for.
It's awesome. So listen, here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. My Tony Mayo, who we had on here a couple of weeks ago, we had a coaching session, and again, this goes back a couple of years, but he starts telling me about these hedge fund guys who had bought these properties, all these properties in Connecticut and around New York City and things like that, and it's like 2010. And they're driving around, and he points out this one property to his partner, and he says, something like, "Yeah, we're going to make like 2.6 million on that place." And his partner's like, "Whoa, what are you talking about? Make 2.6 million? I know what we paid for that in 2007.
Right.
There's no way we're going to get that back." And it opens up this discussion. Well, what they did is they pulled on their big boy pants when all this crap went down right away. And they said, right, you know what? We're writing down the loss today. We're going to take it on the chin. We're going to adjust and we're going to say, okay, boom, this property is no longer worth the $4 million that we paid for it as is. It's now worth 1.6. That is a loss on our balance sheet of $2.4 million today. It allowed them to move forward with a fresh balance sheet and a fresh slate. And then now they came back and they renovate the property and they sell it, and they're selling from a 1.6 baseline instead of the 4 million that they sold. The money was already lost, but they had dealt with the problem on day one. Whereas others, I know people that they strung this out and they did their best to stay, keep their head above water, to hold on and hold on and hold on. And now 8 years later, they're like, I just can't do it anymore.
Right.
And sunk them. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about with a lot of these companies. You saw when COVID hit, especially a lot of real estate brokerages, when, when the governor said, hey, look, you can't have any showings. A lot of these brokerages, they laid off, or, they laid off a lot of their.
They downsized. They went lean and mean really quickly.
That's exactly
what they could do. Yep.
And then when things opened back up, they brought them all back, and they came back like gangbusters. And there's a lesson to be learned there. So I think that, there are.
And what is that lesson? That lesson is, don't lie to yourself about how bad things really are. Right. And don't think that you can make adjustments tomorrow that you should be making today. If you're if you're, it's not pleasant, it's not happy, but that Band-Aid isn't coming off your arm without ripping it off. It's going to come off at some point. So you might as well suck it up, grit your teeth, and rip the Band-Aid off. You've got to do that in real estate.
Yep. And it hurts. But guess what? A slow bleed is so much worse.
Absolutely.
All right. Boom. That brings us to mortgage news. Again, the dry part of the show here. Mortgage news last week. Amazing. Refis jumped. All right. So first of all, we had an 8% increase week over week in the number of refi applications. 30-year, it was a direct response to the 30-year fixed mortgage rate. It dropped 4 basis points to 3.01%. Right. That's your average.
That's the average. There's certainly rates being offered below that and people getting rates below that. Yeah. But the average is 1 basis point above 3%.
That's insane. Jumbo mortgages, they're at
417. What's the jumbo rate these days? What's the, I mean, what the
it
jumbo
varies.
the jumbo loan amount? Is it?
So
Is
I didn't realize this. It varies by county.
yes, of
Yeah.
course it does. But there's like a minimum, like it's it's 417 unless you're in a county where it's higher, and I forgot what that
Yeah.
basis is.
Well, the bottom line is 3.31% for a jumbo is amazing, especially since earlier in the summer we were talking about all of the other interest rates dropping except jumbo mortgages,
Right.
because banks were really uncertain. What this shows us, I think, is that there's a lot more certainty in the market from the financial side.
Confidence in value.
Which
Confidence
is,
in value.
it's we don't talk about politics here very often, but it's interesting what's going on in the political spectrum and how the markets are reacting to it. I wish there was a tell here, so we could see what was going to happen in a month, but who knows? Applications for new home purchases dropped 2%, declining for the second straight week, but that's really predictable because of the lack of inventory. I mean,
also time of year. Things slow down a little bit, little bit this time of year after school starts.
Yeah. Again, historically high loan values. This is like a weekly announcement, but the average loan size for a purchase is up $1,500, $1,800 to $371,500 this week. So that's good news. All right. Not so good news for brokers and real estate agents. Now, this is probably going to fall by the wayside. It's very likely, but
This has been around for a while. It's kind of scary, but I don't see it happening. Basically, what the antitrust lawsuit is that if I hire Josh as a broker to list and sell my house, Josh then pays the buyer's agent. I sell my $200,000 house. I write a 6% commission check to Josh, which is $12,000. Josh pays Sally, who found Bob, the buyer.
Yep.
So Sally, the selling agent, finds Bob, the buyer, to buy my house. And I'm like, wait, why am I paying for Bob and why am I paying Sally's commission?
Yep.
Sally's getting this for free. Bob's earning off of everybody's earning off of me. This should be something different. Here's the reason why this doesn't actually stand. I negotiate with Josh in good faith. Here's why this is going to eventually go down. Because I negotiate with Josh in good faith. And number one, I can negotiate with Josh one rate if Josh is the selling agent as well as the buyer's agent. So if Josh does what's called double bagging the transaction or gets both sides of the transaction, I can have a separate price with Josh. Or I can say, Josh, I want you you earn $12,000, 6% to sell my $200,000 house. Whether you do that by yourself, whether you do it with somebody else. I don't care if you have an assistant that you have to pay out of that. I don't care what your broker split is. You know what I mean? Like, think about it. There's all kinds of things that always go on the back end of how when we pay somebody a commission. So there's a broker split that people aren't complaining about. There's assistants, there's transactional licensees that people aren't complaining about. There's all these other things that get divvied up in here. And I mean, I should be able to say to Josh, hey, Josh, you're going to list my house for 6%, but I know that your normal going rate, but you didn't have to pay Zillow anything for this lead. You didn't have to do any marketing for this lead. So because I'm your friend, you should give me a discount for that. By the way, don't you hate it? Don't you hate the friends and family discount? Because the friends and family always end up being the deals that require more work. I've always said that there should be a friends and family premium, not a friends and family discount.
Well, so I got two thoughts on this. Okay, I think the major issue for this is that there's a monopoly in the real estate industry, and that's what rubs people the wrong way. Whether it's real or perceived, and I know that if you're using the MLS to sell your property, you're going to get more money than doing a FSBO.
Right.
As a residual to that, or as an aside,
Right.
If you're selling your property and you tell your agent, listen, I'm going to let the buyer worry about paying his own agent.
Right.
I'm going to give you 3%, but I'm not paying the buyer's agent, right? You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
Because you're not negotiating on a level playing field. What you're doing is that your agent's going to put the thing on the MLS and it'll say buyer's broker commission and it'll say 0.
Right.
How many times that property is going to be shown, right or wrong? Goose egg. Nobody's going to work for free. And the way that the system is set up, buyers have to bring enough cash to closing. It's already a struggle to get them through the door a lot of times.
Right.
Why are you going to put more of a burden on there and shoot yourself in the foot?
Right.
I see this as the idea of the antitrust. I mean, so it wasn't just the National Association of Realtors. There were also some really big brokerages that were named in this thing as co-conspirators or whatever you want to call it. And, there's some legitimacy there that, hey, this doesn't seem like a real fair playing field. But the truth of the matter is the MLS, it's a game changer. Like, it is a game changer, and it has a tremendous amount of value. When you put the MLS together with a really solid listing agent or a really solid buyer's agent, hands down, it's not even close to what you've had in the past or to selling it on the private market or yourself.
Yeah, I think that one of the other things that is a little bit misleading about this is they talk about an artificially high commission rate.
Yeah.
There's tons of brokers out there, and they crop up usually in good times like this, where they'll list your house for $1,500 flat fee, or 1.5% or something like that, because what they're trying to do is, 1.5% listing, but then they'll also pay a 3% to the other side. And because they're making money on title, they have an in-house mortgage company that's owned by the same people, that as long as they disclose that, it's not a conflict of interest according to RESPA laws. And there's all these other ways that they can make money on the transaction. And by and large, that segment, the discount broker segment out there, gets a very small segment of the population. Usually what people want and usually what people go for is full service brokerages. There's a reason why people use full service agents. There's a reason why agents charge 6%.
I don't know if you remember this, but in 2006, 7, a company by the name of Exit Realty came out, and they were doing 4% listings.
Yep.
And they were offering 2% on the
They also had a tiered structure. They were set up kind of like Keller Williams is, where they're actually a network marketing company. Where you can sign up other people and things like that.
Well, but the killer with that, look, real estate brokerages, even though the fees seem humongous and they're raking it in, the brokerages themselves, a lot of times they're capped out at how much they can make off of off of an individual agent.
Right.
And so they're not making money on the brokerage. The fees pay for the brokerage to be open, and there's no profit. They make money on title. They make money on insurance. They make money on the ancillary fees that go along with it. But anyway, that's a totally other story. It's something interesting related to the real estate market, something to keep an eye on, and we'll see where this case goes.
Absolutely.
All right. Congratulations, Judah.
This is
free rent in 2021.
This is scary stuff.
Unbelievable. So
this is Animal Farm 1984 level of lunacy that we are seeing playing out in front of us.
Here's what I think is so funny about this. All right, so let's give some background here. The House this week passed a $2.2 trillion stimulus bill. Included in that bill are a couple things that are related to housing. Number one, there's a full ban on eviction filings for non-payment of rent. Number two, if you don't pay your mortgage, you automatically go into a forbearance program. So whether you don't pay just because, hey, I don't feel like it, or what, it extends the ability to foreclose, right? There's a $50 billion rental assistance program to help, hurting tenants, which is kind of weird, because if you're going to help tenants pay their rent, Why can't you evict them if they don't pay?
Right, exactly.
So it's a little odd. And then there's $80 million per state that was put aside for homeowner assistance for delinquent mortgages and things like that. We talked about this yesterday. We talked about this yesterday very briefly, but I talked to a potential borrower earlier this week who is a wealthy guy. But over the course of COVID, he's had a real crunch put on his finances, and his personal credit went from 810 to 575 in a few months because his tenants aren't paying rent. I mean, owns millions of dollars of real estate. He's not unique. Like this is happening all across the country. And with 50% of the private rental market comprised of, mom and pop landlords, that's a huge market. And that's a huge number of people that have, in some cases, their life savings in that property, in that, and their future invested in that thing. And this it reeks of unfairness here. It really does.
Well, and Steve brings up a good point here that forbearance does affect credit, which isn't normally stated when people are trying to sell and tout the benefits of forbearance. And the problem is that when you're looking to rent to somebody, that's pretty much a manual underwrite. You look at that, you make a determination whether you're going to rent to them or not. When you're looking to get a mortgage, it's very credit score focused and credit score reliant. And the forbearances affect the algorithm and affect your credit score. So even if an underwriter looks at it and says, oh, Josh Weidman has some rental properties and I see some lates on a mortgage here, but those lates are during that COVID time, I'll just get a letter to explain that it was forbearance and get, the proof of that and blah, 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 blah. That's great. The underwriter might say, I'm not going to hold that against you, but it's still going to be affected in your credit scores and still going to be held against you in your credit scores. And so, it absolutely is 100% a problem.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. The second part of this conversation is something that Judah is going to disagree with me on, and he's probably going to want to tape my mouth shut. So President Trump, he said he's going to veto the bill, and he's not even going to consider a stimulus package until after the November election. And I think, as he put it, until I'm reelected as president. So I got a big problem here. I got a big problem with all of our politicians. They were elected to be leaders, and instead they're acting like children. And I'm saying this about everybody. I am so stinking sick of this election. I cannot wait till it's over. I'm like, there's a handful of people I can start looking at their Facebook posts again, and we can start being friends again. But it just blows my mind. It really does.
I agree. There's a lot of craziness that's going to go on until the election, and hopefully, I think we're going to see a spike of craziness after the election, no matter what happens. And then I think we're going to get back to some semblance of normalcy. Remember, though, for the past two presidential elections, they've been starting earlier and earlier, and we kind of live in a constant state of running for office now from the presidency. So I think that we might, people talk about the new normal from COVID. I think the new normal is the hyper politicization of everything. We see everything not through a scientific lens, not through an emotional lens, not through a business lens, not through an economic lens, not through a spiritual lens. We see everything through a political lens these days, and there's a whole bunch of ways to evaluate things other than just politically. And unfortunately, that is where we are and what we're doing. I think that Trump's play here, if I can dispassionately think, probably what he's thinking is that after the election, the need for the stimulus bill is either going to be non-existent or different, right? So we're going to see a breakout either up, and the political capital for a stimulus bill is no longer going to be there, or we're going to see a breakout down, and because of that, maybe his number won't be the $2.2 trillion that the House just passed, but more in line with the $4 trillion or something like that the Democrats are clamoring.
Well, thankfully, we saved that money so we can spend the $4 trillion next year.
Right. I mean, we've got it sitting there.
Yes.
I mean,
Awesome.
we've got it sitting there on the credit card balances of our grandkids, so that they are going to have to pay back with interest. But it's also hard to make that debt argument right now when interest rates are as low as they are, and we're trying to print money to spark inflation. Debt is not a problem, and inflation is not a problem. And I'm somebody who, and I'm saying that as somebody who currency wise is a hawk and who is a concern when it comes to inflation and long-term interest rates and things like that.
All
So
right.
because long-term borrowing is politically possible right now, we're only gonna see more of it.
All right. On a much more serious note,
A much more exciting note, a much
on a
more
much
happy
more
note.
exciting and serious note,
Serious?
it's not exciting. It's really sad. It's really sad. But
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
computers are evolving into racist bots.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah, this is my mistake. I was getting our stories confused. Forgive me.
so
There's
racist
nothing happy about
computers
racism.
are part of a federal lawsuit against the tenant screening company CoreLogic.
Right.
There was a dispute. They were trying to squash this thing because of some changes to the way. All right, so the Trump administration changed the way complaints about discrimination were treated,
Right.
especially when new technology was implemented. And like, look, anything new, you got to kind of figure it out. It's either a tool that you can work with or it's junk, right?
Right.
So what has happened is this lawsuit was questioned, and hey, they're moving forward with it. The complaint looks like this. They're saying that CoreLogic, the underlying algorithm that evaluates tenants for a lot of property management software, was innately biased, that it was written with human biases inside the algorithm. And as such, it carried those biases into racial discrimination that is typically just prone to human beings. My conclusion to this, our conclusion, is that the computer is just racist.
Yeah. The numbers don't lie, and it is yeah. I think that it's hard to talk about this
Institutional racism at a computer level.
It's hard to talk about this without getting yourself in trouble.
Hard
But
into
yes, but this is a story that's really out there right now. There are people who are claiming that computers are racist, and we think you should know about that.
All right. So one other piece of news that is not real estate related, but also sounds crazy, is that
This is where I thought you were going. This is I got our last stories confused.
the ride-hailing company Waymo.
Right.
They announced that they are going to be employing ghosts in Phoenix to drive their cars.
Okay. Now here's the deal. So you're going to be able to call a cab just like you can with Uber and say I want to go over here, and it's going to take you there. Here's the thing. That sounds kind of crazy and kind of far fetched, but they've been demoing this, and they've been working with a couple hundred people and like testing this out. You know what I mean? And seeing and making sure that this works, and it's actually been working, and it's been working fine. And so they are now going to be opening this up to the general public. The good news is that this is a I almost said this is a Google owned company. It's not owned by Google. It's owned by Alphabet, which is, what Google, founded as a.
I got a question for you. Is this the company where the dude went to jail for stealing technology from Uber? Like
I don't know.
There was an Uber, like a high-end Uber technology guy that went to a new startup, and then Google invested in them. It was It was a really big problem. Like
I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. It could be. If we had producers for our show and researchers, that would be something that we could. If it wasn't just two hacks having fun in our downtime,
maybe Maybe we get a sponsorship from Waymo.
Right, there you go.
Waymo.
I also wish this company wasn't. My takes on this is that I wish it wasn't called Waymo because colloquially in the industry we refer to Washington Mutual as WAMU, and this is only going to make things much more confusing.
Yeah, I get it.
But I think
All
this is exciting. I think this is exciting news, and I've been saying for the last 5 years, the future is going to be awesome, and it's really cool and it's really exciting to see stuff like this happening and developing and rolling out. There's certainly going to be bumps along the way, but they've obviously beta tested it enough that in the Phoenix area they are going to be, expanding it. Remember how right away when Google Streets first happened, like it was only on like main streets and it was only
Yeah.
like here and there and like they didn't have all these side streets. Now, like Josh, you're evaluating properties from afar all the time. I'm evaluating properties all the time from afar. I'm like shocked and pissed off and offended when Google doesn't have a street view of, whatever back alley or whatever. You know what I mean? That Google has the audacity to not for free offer me a service of a bright daytime image of the front of any piece of real estate I want to see.
I'll tell you this, 2 things there. Number 1, if there's a property that doesn't have a Google Street View,
Right.
it's one that I'm not interested in investing in. Number
Right.
1.
That's a fair
And number
point.
2, just remember, if you're not paying for the service, you're the product.
You are the product, right?
You
Absolutely.
are the product. Anyway,
speaking of free services that we're offering, we're doing something here on Note School tomorrow. I got my alert and notification.
tomorrow.
I hope that you, Josh, as well got your alert and notification because we're both going to be there. Noteschool.com/BGRES. It's so funny. Like we wanted to promote this and we wanted to have Brian on, and we've had him on 3 or 4 times over the past 3 weeks to talk about this event. And Josh and I have even learned so much. Josh and I were talking after the show, like, oh, you didn't know that? Yeah, I kind of knew that. Oh, you didn't know that? Well, I kind of knew that. And we were kind of sharing. We both kind of have understood bits and pieces of the note business, but we're not in it all day, every day, the way Note School is. And Note School is going to give us a comprehensive overview of the note business for free.
Yep.
There's still time to register. All you need to do is go to www.noteschool.com/BGRES. It's free, guys. It's not even like put in your credit card and, we charge you a penny to reserve or anything like that. It's not like, you pay $10, but you get a rebate or anything like that. 100% free to be there and show up. And we're going to start at 9:00. We're going to end at 3:30. There's going to be some breaks along the way. Of course, it's a virtual thing. You do this from your home, and I'm really excited for everybody to participate. And I want
to throw a note on that. I want to throw a note on.
You want to throw a note on our conversation about notes?
There we go.
Dad, can you tell?
Talking with Brian yesterday, he just shifted something on a property that I've been looking at and trying to figure out how this deal might work. It totally shifted my perspective just a little bit. And it was just enough for me to see the opportunity there. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited for tomorrow because this is it's not stuff that is going to make your head explode.
Right.
Your head might explode, but it's not because the concepts are so big and hard. It's just like, we're going to look at it at a little bit different perspective, and I'm really psyched. That's all I can say.
I think that's a really great point. And we're going to close on this point here, but I forgot to mention this. You do get a free downloadable book just for registering. Just for registering, you get a free book. And Steve obviously has already registered and downloaded the book and said that in and of itself is worth it. So go to noteschool.com/BGRES to get the free book and lots of good stuff there. We're going to be back for hopefully most of you guys on Saturday, but for the rest of you guys on Monday at noon. A lot of big stuff coming on Monday, and we're going to talk about that then. But I hope to see you this weekend at Note School then.
Awesome. See you guys. Take care.